Welcome to the April 8, 2010 meeting of the Lake Forest Building Review Board. Let us begin by introducing the members of the board. I'm Don Schoenheider from the 3rd Ward, and would the other members of the board introduce themselves, starting to my left?
My name is Stuart Trey. I'm with this. I live in the 2nd Ward.
Lloyd Culbertson, 4th Ward.
Peggy Vignacchi, 2nd Ward.
Monica Ruggles, 1st Ward.
Charlie King, 2nd Ward.
And would city staff introduce themselves, please?
Kathy Cerniak, Director of Community Development.
Peter Coutant, Senior Planner.
Thank you. The board is here tonight to work together with all of you, property owners, architects, neighbors, and interested citizens, to continue the long tradition that allows community members to work together to preserve the qualities and the unique character that make Lake Forest a special community. We recognize the personal importance of each petitioner's request, and our goal is to respect the requests of the owner while balancing the interests of the community as a whole, to preserve, complement, and enhance its architectural character and heritage. For those of you who may not be familiar with the Building Review Board, the types of projects that come before this board are those in which property owners are requesting a variance to allow a home that's larger than permitted by the code, are seeking a demolition permit for a replacement structure, or otherwise involve issues that could not be fully resolved with the city staff. It's important to note that over 95% of building permits are issued by the city without the need for any board review. Thus, the board typically deals with the most challenging and sometimes controversial projects. The City of Lake Forest is committed to conducting open and fair meetings. To achieve that goal, the board has adopted meeting procedures so that all parties will be provided an opportunity to speak. These procedures are outlined in the agendas available at the back of the room. This meeting is also broadcast on cable television. Speaking on behalf of the entire board and city staff, our objective is to provide a review process that is thorough, fair, and without unnecessary delay. The next order of business is the approval of the minutes from the February 3rd, 2010 meeting. Any changes or corrections to the minutes of the February 3rd meeting? Not hearing any, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Meeting minutes for February 3 are approved. The first petition this evening is a commercial petition, a preliminary consideration of a replacement signage and an alteration to the building facade for Ferrentinos located at 842 Northwestern Avenue. Owner is the Donald Strenger Trust, DJG Holdings, LLC. Say that 3 times quickly. And Representative Mark DeGansi, designer. Gentlemen?
First off, I'm Neil Vanderwilt. I am standing in for Mark DeGansi this evening. He couldn't make it. The computer has been locked.
While he's doing that, could you give me your name again for the minutes?
Neil Vanderwilt.
Thank you.
This is essentially what we're trying to do with the existing facade of Ferrentinos. I believe you already all have seen the rendering. And I believe you all have already seen the statement of intent, so I'm going to not read it, if that's okay. Essentially what's there right now is a storefront window, and all we're planning on doing is removing these 4 panes of glass, as well as the 2 awnings over the side and the front. As you can see here. So the area of work that we're really focusing on, Western Avenue, is just the front facade. And again, just the 4 panes of glass window, along with the awnings, will be removed to make way for outdoor seating, as well as a trellis above. The outdoor seating obviously will be just seasonal. And we're putting in a sliding door so that we can have good flow between the inside and the outside of the building. This is our proposed elevation. Again, the trellis, the opening doors, and a stucco band, which we're proposing, which we believe it will integrate better with the adjoining building, which is also stucco. And considering the fact that we're removing the awnings, it will take a little bit away from the starkness of just the brick flat. The signage that we're proposing is within the guidelines for square footages. Now, I did read the agenda. There was a question of whether or not this one would be approved or not. I don't know. But as of now, this is what we're hoping to get done. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Report from city staff. Peter?
Thank you, Chairman Schoenheider. On your agenda this evening, we have two items, both signage requests. One is for Ferrantino's, which you're discussing now, and the second is for Fresh Market. And it's, I think, fitting that we have both of these items on your agenda together. Ferrantino's, a long time, almost institution in our business district, and Fresh Market, which is a sure to be an exciting new addition to our business district. The fact that we have both of these items on your agenda really gives us a unique opportunity to evaluate both proposals in the context of the other, since these two businesses do sit right next to each other, share the same portion of the block. Ferrantino's is proposing two requests. One is a request for new signage, and the second being alterations to the existing storefront. The storefront alterations, as you just heard, will alter the existing storefront window to provide the opportunity to open up that portion of the store to allow sort of a flow of indoor and outdoor dining. This section of the Western Avenue streetscape was just completed in this last year, some substantial streetscape enhancements, which really have provided some additional pedestrian amenities and a slightly more pedestrian-friendly streetscape. The width of the sidewalks have been increased. There's some additional streetscape plantings. So the idea of altering this storefront to encourage more pedestrian activity on the sidewalk really is very much fitting with the goals of the streetscape enhancement project. And staff very much supports that. The signage aspect of the project will do two things. It will provide greater identity to the exterior of the store. Right now, the signage for Ferrantino's is entirely within the storefront glass, so there's not a lot of visibility to it. This will provide some enhanced visibility both on the frontage of the building as well as on the south facade of the building for vehicular visibility of traffic heading northbound on Western Avenue. So staff does support the signage on both sides of the store. It'll also provide, the second being some enhancement to the upper portion of the storefront, the parapet area, which right now is a very large blank brick area. By using that space for signage will really enhance the frontage of the store, and also I think provide some tie-in to some of the work that's being done in the adjacent Fresh Market exterior as well. So there was a suggestion in the staff report that perhaps the signage on the front elevation didn't necessarily need both types of sign, that the primary Ferrantino signage over the front entrance given its size, given its location on that portion of the building, would be prominent enough that the other signage to the right may actually be overkill, be a little bit more than what's necessary. However, I think that sign, that style of sign, the circular red oval, does work nicely on the south facade where the signage area is a little bit smaller in size. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on Ferentino's. We're not suggesting that the board take final action this evening. We wanted to get this on your agenda so you can have a discussion on it and provide some feedback. Ms. Cerniak, once you've finished this item, will be providing some additional information on Fresh Market.
Great. Thank you,
To answer
Peter.
your questions.
Now to the board for any comments or questions.
I have a question
Peggy?
for staff. Peter, when you talk about that it's within the design criteria, square footage of the sign, does that include the fact that you have the south face sign also, and is that deducted from the total overall allowable?
That sign does deduct from it, but in
Okay.
total, it does comply with the square footage, the maximum square footage.
All three signs?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question about the illumination of the sign. I believe it's proposed that lighting to illuminate signage would be placed in the trellis.
Yes.
I don't see it in any of the renderings, and I don't see any specs for the lighting.
There was specs submitted for the light we're going to be using. I can pull it, but they were going to be basically put,
Oh, they're on the back.
and you wouldn't actually be able to see them because they would be within the trellis.
How will they be placed? Will they be placed?
Yes, in between the trellises, it would be invisible from the road.
And staff this is all within compliance, these LED combat floodlights?
This lighting of the signage is something that's permitted through board approval. We haven't reviewed this from a building permit perspective to know that it's in compliance, although that would happen at the permit review process. But the notion of lighting the sign is something that the board could approve if you desire to.
Thank you.
Would it be a uniform light across the sign?
No,
then?
no, it would just be more or less focused on the three individual
Like
signs. Yes.
spotted on each, okay.
And just to clarify, now, the lights would be individual on each of the three, not just
Yes.
the primary Ferentino sign.
Yes.
Okay.
There would be just one, and then probably just, obviously on the left side and two on the front,
So
more or
there'd
less.
be
More or
three
less.
all- three
Three
total.
altogether, yes, sir.
And the trellis wraps around to the south side enough where you have the recess where you can put the light there, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions?
I have a question for Peter. The problem or concern with the two signs facing the east facade, you don't particularly care for the smaller red sign just because you think it's too busy, or that's what the staff's feelings are? I'm just kind of gauging why the concern to have that two signs on the east facade.
That is our suggestion to the board, that there is a little bit of inconsistency. Obviously, they're very different in their appearance. And I think the primary sign, the larger sign, really will be what will identify the business. And it almost as though the other sign is to fill the space that's at that end of the building. So simply from the perspective of providing signage for the purpose of identifying business, it doesn't seem necessary to have both of those signs.
Okay, I understand. My 2 cents is that that Ferentino's logo, I can tell you, I go there quite frequently, and it's kind of a logo. I mean, you have the golden arches, McDonald's, et cetera. So I think I'm not speaking for Ferentino's, but I imagine that, that small sign might be more important even than the big Ferentino sign, and I'd, you know, given, their commitment to our town, I'd be more, inclined to agree that, they would be allowed to have that, second smaller sign on that facade, but again, that's just my, opinion.
I think I happened to just drive up before, prior to the meeting. Most of the signage on the buildings on Western Avenue is very low-key. There aren't a lot of signs like this. A lot of them are on the awnings of the stores with just, you know, ABC Shoe Store, whatever the case may be. Some are window signs. I tend to agree with staff that the appearance now is, it's obviously a commercial district, but it doesn't appear to be commercial. And I think the addition of logos makes it, I know Burger King, this was a long time ago, they weren't allowed to put Burger King out there. I tend to agree with staff on this, that one. The logo on the south, I don't have an objection to that. But that same objection could apply to that one also.
Historically, the board, in evaluating signage in the business district, has not encouraged logos as
Right.
part of signage. And so you're right. If you look at a lot of the businesses that have a very identifiable logo, they're not part of the signage. I think the key is we very much want signage that's going to be visible, that's going to help attract traffic, pedestrian traffic, vehicular traffic to this business so that they can continue to thrive. But the issue of providing signage that is a logo is something that historically the board has not encouraged, but encouraged signage that identifies the names of businesses very clearly.
You know, if I have a question maybe for both Peter and Neil. If the small logo sign to the north were removed, are you suggesting or think the logical choice then would be to move the main sign to the middle to kind of balance out the facade, or?
Well, the main sign is obviously over the front doorway.
Right.
So we really want to emphasize this is the entrance.
Okay,
So we probably would just keep it in the place that it is.
okay. And you don't think that then there's too much facade there with nothing on it?
Yeah.
It looks a little out of balance, I
Well,
guess.
and I would defer to the designer
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
I think our guidelines discuss having the signage over the entrance, which makes sense to keep it in that location. And in my opinion, the smaller red sign in its entirety looks like a logo. And that's what we try and discourage. And the fact that, you know, we're allowing it on the south face, I think the one on the street side is a bit too much.
Yeah, I also have some concerns with the lighting of those logos, the 3 different lights. I think it could look kind of splotchy and you know, not as uniform as you may like. And I believe, like, if you would just center the Ferentino's logo on the building, it really wouldn't deter people from knowing that the entry is just a little bit to the left of it. So I guess for me, that, you know, having the 2 logos so close together on a building just seem a little
Too much.
Little much. Mm-hmm. But I have no problem with the logo on the south side at all. And I also I have a question about the trellis itself. Is that something that you're trying to carry the theme of the interior of the building to the exterior?
It's for a transition, just to kind of bring the inside out. As you walk in, you're kind of going through a trellis, you're entering the space.
And would the trellis actually have any kind of plants or vines that would be associated with it, since it is a garden element?
The option's there. I mean, we're definitely going to have seasonable plants. We have called out for planters. And eventually, I mean, vines do grow. So I would have to check back on you on that one.
Okay. And the other comment about the trellis, since the signage itself is such a large and almost heavy-looking piece, It seems to me that the trellis itself seems a little slender or thin, like the proportions of the upper beam just looks a little thin. It could be hefted up a little bit, and the columns themselves, the bases are sort of smallish, but.
I mean, it's definitely something we could work with.
Okay.
Any other comments? Would you anticipate stenciling any signage on the glass?
Well, the furthest to the left will still have its signage. I mean, I don't believe that we were intending on taking that down. It would be existing as it is right now. But other than that, no, there was going to be no intention of actually furthering that.
I'm sorry, to the left of the front door? Is that the Ferentino's
As it is.
spelled out?
Existing photograph.
All of the stenciling or the signage on the glass would remain, is that?
That would be it.
How does that square with the signage ordinance?
We'll need to look at that, right, and figure out how that calculates into it, and we can have that for you when it comes back.
At this time, any opportunity for the public to make comments? Seeing no one raise their hand. Any other final comments from the petitioner?
Thank you.
Any other comments from staff or the board? I think, Peter, what you probably heard the majority of the board say is agreeing with staff, and the logo sign would probably need to go. I thought Monica brought up some good points about the size and scope of the columns and the beam above the trellis, so it'd be worth looking at maybe on another go-round.
Okay.
And I think we all would agree that we're interested in getting your feedback on any door signage, either existing or anything that they might add to the new or existing glass. So, with that, does that kind of capture?
And perhaps centering the.
And centering the.
And perhaps centering the large sign. Anything else?
We can.
Anything else from staff?
I think those are all the items I had, so we can work with the petitioners to bring back the project for action at hopefully your next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next petition is a request for approval of the building signage plan for Fresh Market, opening soon at 850 North Western Avenue. Petitioner is the Fresh Market, and representative is Mark Vitale, project manager, and he's not here this evening. Kathy?
He isn't. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Ferentino's project is a little bit further ahead of the Fresh Market, but since we're in discussions with Fresh Market and you are hearing about Ferentino's tonight, even though the Fresh Market representative is in North Carolina tonight, we thought it would be worth at least letting you know what's going on and getting some comments. It seemed like since they're next door to each other, this really is a facelift for this part of Western Avenue that I think could really create some energy, and I think both Ferentino's and Fresh Market are very interested in really creating some pedestrian activity, providing tables along the street front. Fresh Market has also talked about doing some outside merchandising. The sidewalk isn't real wide there. We do try and keep 5 feet of space for passersby, but I think this is a real opportunity draw some attention to that part of the community. Fresh Market is planning to open in August. That is their target date. They will be filling the space that was formerly Don's Finest Foods. If you've been by there recently, you know they've been doing a lot of work. They will be coming before you because their request for signage does exceed what is permitted in the sign ordinance. You do have some preliminary drawings illustrating their signs in your packet. Just an overview of that. Fresh Market does have a corporate sign. It is very simple. It doesn't have any graphics associated, no fresh fruit coming out of the letters. So it is very straightforward. There are 3 letters, The Fresh Market. It's in their corporate green color. They are requesting 2 signs. Both of them would be located on the tower at a higher elevation than the Ferentino's sign. We did talk with them about whether the signage on the tower was perhaps too high and out of view of passersby on Western Avenue. They did go back and look at that. From their perspective, they still believe that the signage on the tower is their preferred approach. As we look at the signage on Ferentino's, maybe having signage all the way across at that same level isn't the right approach. Maybe it adds more interest to have different elevations. But they did, after looking at it, come back to us and say, we still want to at least try for the signage on the tower. They are proposing signs both on the east-facing, the front facade of the tower, as well as the north-facing facade. We have communicated to them that the signage they're asking, the single sign, the sign just on the front alone exceeds the 25 square feet that would be permitted. I believe it's at, the square footage of the front sign is 29 square feet alone. The signage they're proposing on the north facade alone is 18.5 square feet. The code does allow an opportunity for properties that are located on a corner, defined as on 2 public streets, to have 2 signs. But even on a corner, the signs together are not to exceed 25 square feet. So you have a significant overage. Knowing that, they still said, let's present both signs on the tower. But their compromise position is that the front sign is the most important, and that if they are asked to remove the sign on the north side, what they would like to do is simply have signage on the awning flap. There would be an awning covering their doorway, their entrance, which would remain on the north side as it was for Don's, and they would simply put the Fresh Market on that awning flap. And that seems to be a very acceptable solution to them. The signage on the front, I don't know if you had a chance to go by, but there are 4 letters up there. 2 of the letters are 14-inch tall letters. 2 of the letters are 16-inch tall letters. The proposal that's shown in the packet at 29 square feet uses the 16-inch letters. If you bring that down to the 14-inch, you get under, you are within the size allowed by the code. Looking for your input on sign placement, letter size, and also they would like their sign illuminated. The mock-up letters they have shows 2 of the letters. I think the northernmost letters are their standard internal illumination, internally lit letters. On the south side, they have 2 examples of backlit letters, one using a green color. Internally illuminated is their first choice. The backlit green is their second choice, and the backlit white is their third choice. So looking for input from you on the lighting concept as well. Just as other information provided in the staff report, Fresh Market is proposing to do a mural on the north facade of the building, the brick facade, that will be back away from the street front by the parking lot. It will not be signage. It will be a, I've seen some concepts of the mural, and I think from the staff perspective, we think it'll be a real interesting piece to add, and it conveys the concept of farm to store, the whole fresh concept. So rolling hills, countrysides, and an interesting graphic. It does not have signage, so it does not fall under the provisions of the sign ordinance. It really is artwork, which isn't something specifically regulated at this point by our code. But just wanted to make you aware of that. And then one other point that you may want to comment on isn't something that you would need to take action on. ever. It's not something under your purview, but Fresh Market has noted that there, as part of the Western Avenue Street Improvement Project, there were 2 street trees located in front of the store. One is really between Ferentino's and Fresh Market, away from the signage that would appear on either of the stores. The other one is pretty centrally located in front of Fresh Market, and they're concerned that it will obscure the storefront, that it may limit their ability to use that sidewalk, and as it grows, they just are concerned and ask the city to consider removal of that. It's small enough that we could pick it up and use it at the south end of Western Avenue. So if you'd like to comment on that. We are not asking for any action tonight. Obviously, the petitioner is not here. Again, we brought this forward really more at staff's discretion, just to get your thoughts and input since we're in discussions with them.
Great, thanks, Kathy. Comments?
I have a comment. Fresh Market in South Carolina, they are aware that they're pushing they're way over the limit on the sign ordinance.
They are
And
aware.
they still chose to submit this.
Well, remember, they haven't submitted this for
Yeah,
official
okay.
approval.
All
We're,
right.
we're in discussions with them. They do know that they're way over the limit, and that's why they said on the north side, they offered the awning option
But
and the
even-
reduction in letters.
Even the awning, the square footage of whatever that was, would be deducted from the east signage. Am I correct on that? In other words, if it says the Fresh Market on their awning, does that get deducted from the 25 square feet that they're allowed in front?
Unless Mr. Catan knows how we've interpreted that, I'd have to check. Off the top of my head, I know many stores do have both signage and awning, so there may be something in there that allows that awning flag.
Basically, my
But-
feeling on the thing is, just as we did with Ferentino's, everything is understated there. I see no reason that they should go over 25 square feet. They could use the smaller letters and the awning, that's fine, but not 29 and another 18 and a half. I wouldn't go for that at all.
Kathy, what are they proposing on the awning? Would it be just on the front edge, the lip, or would it be over the entire top surface?
It would be only on the awning facing north over the entrance, and it would just be on the awning flap. 4-inch letters, The Fresh Market.
Is the north facade as wide as the east facade, or is it slightly less wide than the east facade? It's hard for me to tell, but when I look at the way the lettering is placed, it would infer that the north facade isn't, in other words, the tower is not a square. It's not a
I think
perfect-
you're correct, because,
There's
as
a
you know,
smaller
the
surface
size of the
area.
letters simply
Right.
illustrate that.
There's a smaller surface area on the north, right? You know, when you look at the elevation and you look at it straight from the east, it looks fine. You look at it straight from the north, if you want to get over the code variance, it looks fine. But if you look at it on an angle from the northeast, you're gonna see both facades, and one set of letters is gonna be smaller than the other set of letters, and it's, to me, just not gonna look in balance at all. So I don't even think it would look that great if they had 2 different scales of lettering on the east and the north.
They do show that drawings are to scale, and yes, its north facade is not as wide as its east.
It doesn't seem to be, right. So I would agree with, I guess it was their proposed compromise, that they drop the lettering on the north and stick to some awning signage in lieu of that. I stared pretty, I assume those Ts were to the 16 and the 14-inch, 16 3/4, 14
Yes,
inch.
that's what we were
And
told.
I stared at those long and hard. I must confess, I didn't have a big problem with the 16 and 3/4 inch size lettering. I thought it would look okay there, but I'm not sure they would suffer immeasurably if it went down to 14. But I'm not sure I would fight hard against the 16 3/4 inch scale. I'm still a little confused about the lighting. It appeared to me that the lettering on the left looked, which is the south, which I think you identified as the backlit lettering, right? It appeared lighter in color to me than the lettering on the north side of that east facade. And I assume that was the internally lit lettering?
Yes, on the north, it was the internally
Right.
illuminated. I believe in the daylight,
Is that what it is?
they are all the same color.
Uh-huh. Were the lights on this afternoon?
It's very hard to tell in the daylight.
No,
I know they were leaving them on the last several nights, but I can't tell you if they were on in the day. Although if they were on during the day, that could have caused a difference in appearance of the color of the letter.
Mhm.
Kathy, what's the elevation from ground to the bottom of the signage?
I don't know that, but we can sure get you that information.
According to our design guidelines, if it's over 12 feet, that would allow the maximum lettering, which we say is only 14 inches, maximum lettering size. So we're asking not just an overall square footage allowance, we're now, exceeding what we had put in our guidelines as a maximum letter size even. So I think it would be my recommendation to say that the 14 inches should be the maximum. If it's above it, I presume it, it's probably above the 12-foot elevation. And I agree that the two signs would be conflicting on the corner, absolutely.
Monica?
I agree with, Peggy and Stuart as well, that I think that overall there's just too much sign on the tower. And driving by it, I thought the smaller letters were actually a very nice proportion. And, putting those letters on the east facade, I think would actually be more attractive than the bigger letters. The bigger letters almost seem to, crowd the whole tower. It's like there's only so much area left at the perimeter of it. It seems like it's too big for the facade. So I prefer the smaller letters on the east side and the awning on the north side. I did not get a chance to see them lit at night, so I have no comment on that. And also, I think having the mural on the north side will really be a welcoming sign as it is. So, having that mural on the north side with the Fresh Market on the skirt of the awning will really draw in, a lot of people.
I think the awning sign would also bring it down a little more to a better perspective. As I drove by, if I didn't know as part of this project to be looking up for those letters, I would have missed it. I had to go by it twice and look way up through my sunroof. So I think it's a very high elevation right now. So the signage on the awning would be a lower perspective that would be a better sign for them.
Yeah, to add to that, even Jewel, the sign that I look at most of the time for Jewel is the low sign where you drive into the parking lot. I never even look at the one that's up high on the building, on the north side of the building. And we all know where Jewel is, so.
Charlie, any comments?
I just want to confirm with staff, the windows that are on that facade, the east facade, they're going to be done away with to accommodate this signage?
The three arched windows on
Yes.
the tower,
Yes.
the four windows above the awning are proposed to remain.
I guess I'll go back to my comment on Ferentino's, and that is that I know we have a signage amendment, and I wasn't here when all that was drafted, but given the economic circumstances we're facing right now, any kind of leg up we can give retailers, I'm for. Checking out the signages, I didn't have a problem with 16-inch either. I think it would, I think it'd be fine in this case. I do agree that having two signs, really wouldn't fit right there, being so close together, but I would, I'd be a proponent of the larger signage on the, east facade. That's it.
Kathy, in your discussions with the folks from Fresh Market, were they comfortable with the 14-inch lettering?
Yes. We were pretty clear that they were over and above, so I think many of the comments you've made tonight, we can use to reinforce discussions we've already had with them, and save them some time from going down the wrong direction.
Right. Okay, any opportunity for the public to make any comments? And seeing none, any other comments or suggestions from staff or the board?
Just one thought on the trees. Is that in our purview or not?
It's not technically in your purview, but if you wanted to comment on it, it would be,
I think, there's a tree in an island near the front door, right?
yes, that is the
Is that
third tree.
Is that the one that's at issue, or is it the one further to the south?
It's not the one, I forgot that tree. There is a tree at the far north, right by the driveway entrance, not in an island, but in a extended part of the curb, which is part of the new design feature. But it's really the middle tree. There's the tree in between Ferentino's and the Fresh Market, but then there's one tree that's really smack in the center of
The
the Fresh.
facade, the south.
Yes, so it's that one that they're talking about.
That's all.
And I'm sure that whoever gives them permission to do it, they're gonna pay for that, and the tree can be reused, so I guess I'm not wild about that. It's a new tree, so it can be reestablished someplace else.
We've talked at length about the signs on the north and on the east side, the size of the lettering itself. Any other comment about the lighting, the internally lit? Backlit.
I'm not that familiar, I plan on driving by, maybe it's lit now, but does staff prefer any one of those? I mean, I understand what they are, but
Looking at the Western Avenue streetscape, there are very few internally illuminated letters. Walgreens
you
is
said
an
Walgreens
example.
one, and that's a very low-key sign.
However, the simplicity of this sign, the backlighting, and maybe it was the way they mocked up the backlighting, but the backlighting didn't seem real effective. So I don't know that staff has really come down with a recommendation at this point, but I think the smaller letters with the internal illumination, and we did talk with them, confirming that they would go off at night, they wouldn't be left on all night. So I think the smaller letter with the internal illumination is something we'd be interested to see how you feel about it, especially if it's just on the front facade.
And it's a three-dimensional sign, it has a depth, so it would be visible lit at night, from an angle from the north or from the south.
If they use the rear lit signs, what's the material of those letters? Do we know?
I don't know offhand, but we can certainly confirm that. Their preference was the green backlighting. Again, I hope they're lit tonight, and if you wouldn't mind driving by there on your way home. The backlit just didn't seem to be very effective. It seemed to be blurred and a little bit muddied.
But their second preference was the internally lit, or did you say that was their first?
The first their standard lettering is the internal
Internally lit.
illuminated
Okay.
illumination. Their second preference was the green backlit.
Got it. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. So I think, again, just to kind of summarize, I think we all agree that 14-inch sign, 14-inch letters rather, on the east side, remove the signage on the north side of the tower, and subject to how it looks, allow some type of awning or canopy signage at the entryway. And then perhaps prior to the next meeting, and perhaps if they can be here, then they may be able to light up the signs one more time to be able to allow the board to see that. Does that all make sense? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is the opportunity for the public to address the board on non-agenda items. And again, seeing none. The final item is any additional information from staff.
We would be remiss if we didn't note that this was our chairman's last meeting. He has served out his 6 years on the Building Review Board. We've learned a lot from you. We will miss you, but we will invite you back to the next meeting to be formally recognized.
Thank you.
But thank you on behalf of staff.
Thanks, Kathy, very much. It's been a pleasure to work with you and Peter and Megan. I have enjoyed every minute, and I've really enjoyed working with all of you. It's been fun, and it has been very rewarding, and I greatly appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Then, without hearing any other comments, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn this meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I was worried for just a moment.
We wanna
All those
stay.
in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, at 7:18, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Use it.